It's spinning. Hey, how's everyone doing? This is Amy Hamilton, author of The Project Manager, Life is a Project, and my newest book, The Consummate Communicator, Character Traits of True Professionals. I am super excited as part of 24 authors in 12 hours. I have Oliver Lehmann. Oliver wrote 2 books, one of which I have, and the other one, which did not come through. But Oliver, you have it on your side, right?
I have it here, yeah.
Yeah,
It's
could you just
called
hand that to me?
Here, take it. Situation project management. Yes.
Perfect. And
Dynamic
Oliver is joining us from Munich, Germany.
Yep.
And this is truly an international book festival. I am so excited to have you here, Oliver.
Great. I'm excited to be with you.
Awesome. So what I wanted to talk to you a little bit about is you've written 2 books, which is quite an accomplishment. What inspired you to write your books?
The first book, I got a bit dissatisfied with a lot of people in project management who talk about best practices. There are best practices, proven best practices. You use them, and then you know how to be successful in a project. Yeah, like panacea, like a philosopher's stone, something like that. Yeah, the cure that heals everything, and we don't have that. The silver bullet. Yeah? We don't have that. What I found out is the same practice, the same approach and methods and so on that can be successful in one moment in a project can fail in another one. So you have to be situational. You have to ask yourself, what is the right thing for this specific moment with specific people and with specific challenges and environment and so on, and then do the right thing there. There are good examples. I have some very great examples where people used the same method twice, and once they were successful with that, and the other moment they failed. And this was the first book to give people help, to tell them in what situation should you use which approach, which should you use which method, which behavior, and when is another behavior, another approach better. And then the thing that happened was that I really noticed there is a type of projects that is completely ignored. And that's customer projects. Some say customer-facing projects. We have to look more at that, and that's then the content of the second book.
So I think
thank you for buying it.
Yes, of course. And I'll be giving reviews to the authors over the next couple of weeks as I'm able to get through the books. And it's just super exciting to have so many amazing authors.
Yes.
And you really talk about this concept of everything for the situation and the best practices. And I think COVID is this great example of like where everything has changed for us. And
Yes.
So we were talking in a test session about having to pivot from being live and then ending up in virtual space. Can you share some of your experience with that?
I think what we need to do is to develop a different approach to trust. The biggest driver of projects, the most effective driver of projects is trust. You can speed up projects with trust. And if you trust the right people, you can do incredible things. If you trust the wrong people, they will destroy you. So we have a situation where it's more difficult to develop an understanding who is trustworthy and who is not, and to make then our decisions based on that, whom to trust and not. And I think that's a big topic for the moment.
Yeah. I think that's really important. And I think it really goes into your concept that it has to be situational now. Like we have to look at the situation and we can't necessarily go back to that analogous standard that we used to use.
Yeah. When we met in Stuttgart, when you were in Stuttgart and we met there, I saw the tip of your foot. And when you talked to me, I could say, is she just moving the tip of the foot, or is it more still and silent? And this gives me an impression. How far can I trust you? How much are you under stress when you talk with me? This changing or this movement of feet is always an expression of stress, and we don't have this all anymore. I see Amy now up to about here, not here about, yeah, and I have no idea what is beyond that. Yeah? So with very small amount of cues.
I'm sure you're just hoping I'm wearing pants at this point.
It has happened already. Yeah, that people, they didn't have pants on. Yeah, No, but what I mean is it's about trust. It's not about the pants. It's about trust. All the signals that we normally use, maybe without thinking about it, we use them to make a decision for ourselves. How far can we trust these people? To what degree is this person trustworthy or not trustworthy? Yeah, we don't have this anymore. And I think that's the biggest change now. We have to develop rapport. We have to develop trust with each other. And the signals that we can use are very, very few. And by the way, the signals that we send are also limited to this little box around the face. Yeah. So I think that's the biggest change, at least from my point of view.
And you bring up a real challenge for me. I work in an environment where we rarely use video. It's almost entirely audio and email.
Yes.
And I think it's really changed how I interact with people, and I definitely visualize more. And I'm very curious as to what it's going to be like when I actually get to meet people, because do they look like what I think they're going to look like? Because you hear someone's voice and it doesn't always match their face.
Yes. Yes. Fully agreed. Yep.
So on situational project management as well, how's this changed your business and your business model?
Actually, what is changing my business now was the next step, to look into customer projects and into project business. This is now really changing. The first book was more writing down ideas, understanding. It was more coming out of the heart and coming out of the things that changed my understanding of project management. And then when I saw there is really a huge area, a huge part of project management that is completely unaddressed in education, in books, and everything, then I wrote the book Project Business Management. And this is really changing my way I do business now, because this is the thing there where I will put more focus on in future. I'm talking about project managers who have projects as profit centers. They have to bring money home with a project. And it's not just one organization that they have to care for. It is at least two organizations, the contractor, and the other side, that is the customer. So there's a focus on that. I'm now doing seminars for these people, special seminars where we talk about things like profitability and liquidity and these things we normally don't discuss in our project management seminars. And there's a second group, and that's people who do projects not with own staff. It's no more cross-functional. We always look at projects as something cross-functional. No, for them, it's cross-corporate. They have companies in their projects that support them, contractors. So it's the other side as well, the customer side. And again, there is so much complexity in this business now, and so much knowledge that people need to have. They need to be educated for that. And that's the part that is changing my business slowly. Yeah, we together with some friends, I had a new association founded. That's the Project Business Foundation. And by the way, you would be welcome to join us.
Of course.
Yeah. We have a shortage of women.
Well, that's really true in so many different areas, that, when it comes to engineering and project management, is to really kind of, get this diversity out there that we need into the world.
Absolutely. Yeah, we need to do more, but it's not just as men. We men have to be open. We males have to be open for the females, but it's the females who need to come and say, hey, we are there, and we want to have our place here. Yeah. So I think we need to do more altogether. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's really important. There's, I think we have mutual friends, Elizabeth Heron, who's out in England, and she started her initial platform as a Girl's Guide to Project Management, and she highlights a lot of different women in project management, and it is just a pleasure to work with her. And she's always saying, like, one of the keys is that the women, we have to get up and step up to the table. And it's interesting because, you're in Germany, she's in England, I'm here in America. And it goes into the fact that this is a global issue. This is something that you see not just in one culture, but in many cultures across the world today.
Absolutely. Yeah. And as I say, what we can do is open up our projects and our positions and everything, but then we need the women to step in. Yeah. And that's something women need to do, and say, let's be part of that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's really great. And one of the things with all the authors that I've been talking about is book festivals are great. You get to touch the books, you get to open them up, and unfortunately during COVID, we don't get to do that. So one of the things I'm highlighting is that for the entire day, both of my books are free for Kindle download. So you can go on to Amazon.com, any place you are, and you can download my books for free and just take a look through them and see if you like them. And one of the things I focus on while I'm talking to Oliver on the Project Manager Life as a Project is this is the best book you can get a project manager that you do not like or know very well. So it is in hardback, and it's a great book where you could just be like, hey, it's Christmas time. Here's a wonderful book for you. And and then Alicia's great just sitting on your bookshelf. So your books are very dense. And when I read through it and I'm like, oh my gosh, as a project manager, I love your books. But what I would say is, for the average person who's like skimming through this, what do you think the highlights are, either from situational project management or from business project management, that really is kind of universal and can be applied to, people all across the spectrum?
First, the audience for which this is written is professionals. This is people who are in project management practice. So if you have someone who is looking for an entertaining book, well, I hope there is some entertainment in that, but that's not the audience I have. Yeah, that would be different book. So it's the textbooks for practitioners. That's the main audience. The one thing that I think that goes beyond project management is exactly the situational thing. There is no best practice for most of the things that we do. There are best practices for supermarkets, of course, because one supermarket is more or less the same as the other. The business they do over the day is the same, and so on. So they have, of course, their best practices. But if you go outside this operational world where you do the same things again and again, you find wherever you go, you have to be extremely situational. When you fall in love, you have to be situational, because for me as a man, one woman has some other interests and other things that impress her and that she loves than the other one. So I have to be in a situation that when we grow children, we have to be very situational. When we look at the school, I have now 4 children, 2 smaller ones and 2 adult ones, and each of them is different, and each of them needs different treatment and has different challenges. So you have to be situational with them as well. And they change over time. They don't stay as they are. They grow older and they change over time. When they are adult, the life situations are changing. So you have to adjust your behavior to that as well. And that's nothing else than being situational. Yeah.
Now, that is a really good point about the nature of being in different situations and recognizing that everything is different. You have some examples in your book in situational project management of projects that were kind of similar, but then ended up very, very different with different results. Can you give an example of one on what this situational project management applies to?
My best example that I have, because the two are so extremely similar, are 2 central stations. One is the central station in Berlin, which I think was one of the biggest project successes we had in Germany over the last couple of years. And the other one was a central station some years later in Stuttgart, which run into deep, deep troubles. As you probably know, you were long enough in Stuttgart and you remember that time with Stuttgart 21. Yeah.
Oh, not only do I remember it, but it really was kind of interesting. I was in a lecture that you gave on this, and so I was so glad this is the one that you're bringing up, because having lived through the Stuttgart station where people were like, this is terrible, and then having you say these are the same people from Berlin where it worked, and you're like, it's fascinating, because it really just shows you that project management is not universal, that you have to understand the audience. So let's go some further, and if you can share a bit more of the details of Berlin versus Stuttgart station.
Yeah, there is so much that they have in common. It's about construction, it is both central stations, it's in big cities and so on, but there is a huge difference. The Berlin Central Station was a greenfield project. This was the greenfield. This was the old green strip between East and West of Berlin, where the wall stood. So everything was free. They could just act there and be free and build the best central station, I think one of the best that we have in Europe, is at least. Yeah, highly effective, very impressive. It's just fun to be there, and it's so interesting. And then we have Stuttgart, and Stuttgart is a brownfield project. And by the way, another commonality, it's the same project manager. Was the same person doing both central stations with the same approaches. I never met him in person, but I met his team members in later training. I had some of his team members in training, and they told me about that. And I know the situation in Stuttgart. I lived there for many years. It is the center of the conflicts there is where I lived as a student, so I know this area very well. Yeah.
So, and Oliver, which station was built first?
Pardon?
Which station was built first?
Berlin.
So Berlin was a success story, and the project manager took what they learned and then said, I can apply the same success someplace else.
Exactly.
And then what happened?
He had a theory that the world around the project is hostile. You have to keep everything out of this project. Everything is hostile for the project. And this was the best approach for the Berlin Central Station project. So they could just build the central station they wanted to build. In Stuttgart, the problem was that they had to drill tunnels through very difficult geological layers in the ground. And there were houses on top. And when these layers get wet, they can start swelling, and it can destroy the houses on top. And this has already happened, not in Stuttgart, in other places. Yeah. And then they wanted to talk with him. Can we talk about it? We are afraid that our houses may get damaged, which is, I think, a fair fear. If you have that, you want to talk with the project manager. And he rejected to talk with them. This was his philosophy: keep everything and everyone out. These rejected stakeholders came back, and they brought their friends with them, and lawyers, and the press, and people sitting on trees, and blocking construction, and so on. And it all had to stop for, I think it was 9 months or so, that they couldn't work there anymore, do anything else. And then they restarted the project. It was a highly complex process, the whole thing. And he left the project during that time. So the same practice that was successful in Berlin, highly successful in Berlin, failed in Stuttgart. It drove the project into crisis. Keep stakeholders away, yeah, keep people away, keep the project undisrupted from any external influence. This was his philosophy, and it worked in one project and not in the other. And the difference is easy to see when you look at that in a situational way and say, okay, there's a greenfield project in Berlin and there's a brownfield project in Stuttgart where people live, and you have to take care of these people. You have to talk with them. You have to take the fears from them, that they accept what you are going to do. Yeah. So I think that's the best example I have, because apart from that, everything is more or less the same. Yeah.
So you have such a good point, and whether you're a project manager, if you're an author, no matter what it is that you're out there doing, that understanding your stakeholders and communicating to people is absolutely critical to success in anything that you're trying to achieve in life.
Yeah. And you have to understand people, and an important thing, obviously, is you have to know whom to bring into your project and whom to keep out of your project. There are also people that are just disruptive. They can damage your project. And in Berlin Central Station, it was the best thing this guy could do to keep them all out. But that was a special situation. And in Stuttgart, the situation was different. And he could not cope with the situation in Stuttgart with the same approach. Yeah. So
one of the keys in project management is communication management strategies. And you're really kind of touching on a lot of that. So in your 2 books, you kind of talk about how it is situational, whether it's the business aspect of it or situational project management. Can you talk about communication strategies a bit more?
The first thing is you have to work against misunderstandings. Misunderstandings, I think, are among the top 10 reasons for project crisis and project failures. So the very first thing is to make sure people have an understanding. When someone says something, the other person hears the right thing and hears it in the right way. So the first thing is to go against misunderstandings. One of the things we do, for instance, in our Project Business Foundation, in the next couple of days, we'll come out with a glossary. there is for project business nowhere a glossary, a joint glossary that a customer and a contractor can come together and say, this is how we use terminology. It's a very simple thing. And without such a glossary, it is really calling for misunderstandings. They have different corporate cultures and how they use certain words and so on, how they use contract types and all the other things. So we bring these people together to a glossary and say, as soon as they have agreed to a common glossary, I think 50, 60, 70% of the risk of misunderstandings is just resolved because there is a rule book or a set of rules for that, how we use words. Yeah? I think that's where it begins. That's where the whole thing begins, avoiding misunderstandings. Yeah? And the next thing is to make people understand what are the consequences of their actions. When they do something, what are possible consequences? Yeah.
So you bring up a great point, and it's funny that you had this whole discussion on like this lexicon or taxonomy or coming to a common language. Something you might not think is like very important, but crazy little home improvement project. I was working with my tenant who was helping me to put up some storm windows. And as we were carrying the ladder, what we quickly realized is we needed to come to some common lexicons on what's left, what's right, what's forward, what's back, because we were working counter to each other. And so I would say, like, my left, your right, my right, your left, your front, my back. And we had to come to that point because this ladder's just like all wobbling because we didn't have a common language. And even though that's like a very, very minor home improvement project, it just kind of goes into if you can have those common words. And I'm sure that you really have discovered this as you've raised teenagers.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So
we grow learning our mother language, our native language. This is something we learn automatically. We don't need to have a teacher for that. We don't need to have school books for that and a curriculum and all these things. It goes very, very natural. And that is the point when this is more or less done. And now we have to learn new language. It could be foreign languages. It could also be special language, yeah, in a certain industry, yeah, or around a ladder or something like that. Wherever it is, you have to learn new words there. And that's now a process that you have to do deliberately, and where you may need also someone to teach you and someone to discuss these things with. It's no more like the first learning of language. And that's where we are. And a glossary, I think, is just a step, but it's a huge step to reduce misunderstandings. Not all of them, by the way. Yeah. There are misunderstandings between cultures, between nations, between men and women, between men and women and olders and youngers, and so on. We have so many opportunities for misunderstanding, so we have to work very hard to avoid them.
No, I think that's such an important thing. And it's like, understanding and misunderstanding. And it can be as simple as, some of the things that, you and I went through and getting to the point of getting you on the live broadcast here, of making sure you're like getting the link to people, that they know which link it is, all these kinds of things, making sure that people's calendar technology might not interoperate. There's so many opportunities for misunderstanding, and instead to try to come to that common ground. And as we go to this global community, how much more important that I listen to you and listen to your experience and say, what is it that Oliver's really trying to say to me? And I take it in the sense of trying to listen and understand first, instead of just immediately like getting my response ready.
Mm-hmm. 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 Exactly. Yeah. There's a statement about salesmen. My very young years, I was in sales sometime. Yeah. And there's a story about a saying about salesmen. They have two mental statuses. One is speaking, and the other one is waiting to be able to speak again. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Listen. Yeah.
I had a woman earlier today, one of the authors who wrote a book, So You're in Sales, and another Amy. She's super fabulous. And she really talked a lot about that point about a good salesperson has to learn to listen and understand the rhythm and the cadence of the people that they're working with.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. If you always talk, you don't know what the others think and what they want, and you don't know how they hear it, what you tell them. That's the other thing. You don't know what they really hear. All you know is what you say and what you're talking, yeah, but not what they hear. Yeah?
So we're wrapping up now. We've got just a minute. And as we do that, one of the things I want to say is Oliver is also going to be on the project management channel with me on November. Sugar. Sorry, my dog. So just a second. So yeah, the bellman just came up.
She
so
said,
you know, life happens when you're going live, right? So November 13th at 12 o'clock.
yeah, I think so.
We're going to be doing a live broadcast. It'll be 1 hour. I'll be sending out the link for that. Oliver, your website's been streaming. I'll make sure it's posted as well. Is there any last words you want to leave the audience with?
Yeah, read my book and have a great day and stay safe and stay healthy.
Great. Stay safe and stay healthy.
And
Thank you for visiting us from Germany.
Read Amy's book. Right.
Have a
Thank
great
you.
day.
Bye.